So it's been a really rainy weekend, and I haven't really been able to do much of anything outside of the house except for just really chilling and catching up on some of the work that I'm still currently working on, such as that large drawing behind me, which I think it's been about a month now since I started working on it. And today actually I'll be starting on the final touches. I think I'm about 80% done with the drawing, so I'm going to be working on the finer details because I think it's ready for that. And hopefully in the next week or so, a couple of weeks, I'll be able to wrap this drawing up and start on a new one. Some hobbies like making art along with your personal life, it really is a difficult task sometimes to be able to do because you end up really prioritizing one thing over the other, and it's usually, your personal life. You really try to make as much as you can out of the time that you have when you're at home on the weekends, than being able to just sit down and really finish something or work on something. And I don't know about any of you guys who are out there who have a full-time job and try to work on art and create content, like what is that balance like for you? But I find that if I really don't schedule myself to draw or create something, that I really do end up prioritizing other things, and it has made me realize how important it is for me to really squeeze in even just a little bit of doing something creative, working on my art, posting and all that stuff. And with social media and like YouTube and all that stuff, I don't really have a very big following anyway, so to me it's not a big deal. The amount of views, the amount of likes that I have, I'm really just trying to post what I want, what I like, and really just share it. And so part of this for me, part of the art vlogs, and maybe one of the reasons why it's a little difficult for me to sit down and just create an art vlog, is because it really does take a lot of time to make, and you really kind of have to be in the right headspace to do it as well. And when you are working full time and you have your personal life to juggle, there's really not much to show at times. For example, I've still been working on this drawing, like I mentioned, for about a month now, and so I'm really trying to find ways to show you guys what else I've been working on, other things that I've been thinking about. You can kind of tell, like in this side of the video, that I have this other drawing that I've been working on, and I've actually been working on that drawing for a long time now, probably since the beginning of the year. And it's a self-portrait that I've just kind of been piecing piece by piece when I'm getting a little bored with my larger drawings, or if I want to take a break from like landscape drawings. But for the most part, that's really all that I've been working on. And the past vlog, I realized how important creating sketches are, or keeping a sketchbook, how important that is as an artist, and just in your everyday life, especially when you're not a full-time artist and you have other things going on, how important it is to really keep a sketchbook, just to really jot down your thoughts and release your creativity, even just for a little bit. And so that's why I've been kind of focusing a little bit more on the sketchbook time lapses, just to push me with my sketchbook studies and find more inspiration for future bigger drawings like that one. So this is actually the current state of my desk. I got these little container organizer thingies from Amazon, and I've just kind of been putting some of my tools in here. And I really like to use this palette when I'm working on my sketchbook, or just anything in general. I just like having all the pastels laid out all at once, and I really need to throw all of these away. So I actually filmed a sketchbook time lapse yesterday of this image, and this was actually taken from my trip to Portland about a few months ago in the Japanese garden. So that was the reference photo that I used. So not sure if this vlog will come before or after that time lapse, but I'm sure you can see that pretty soon. But this is the state of my desk, and I actually organized a little bit some of my tools here. Let me just take this. So as I mentioned probably in a previous art vlog, that I handmade this sketchbook, bookbinded it myself, because I bought a bookbinding kit from Amazon a couple of months ago, and I finally got to organizing some of my tools here. As you can see, these are some of the bookbinding tools. We got some of the wax threads, bone folders, scissors, and such. And I like to keep my binder clips here because sometimes I use them to clamp down my sketchbook or hang something. For some reason I have this spool of yarn. I don't know why, but I feel like I can definitely use this at some point. And there's just other miscellaneous things here that's not really art supplies per se, but more tools. But I'm thinking one of these days I really want to create a toned sketchbook for ink drawings. Something that I realized the past couple of weeks after working a lot with pastels is I really just miss drawing, just sketching and stuff like that. And I found this one Instagram artist who does amazing pen drawings, and it really inspired me. So I think one of these days I'm gonna create a sketchbook that's just made for pen drawings. So this is the current progress of this drawing. I still don't know exactly what I want to call this piece, but I have a few ideas, but for now I still refer to it as the large drawing. But as you can see, since the last vlog, I've started to add in a little bit more contrast to the drawing with the red flowers. And if you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw the reel of me working on that a couple of days ago. But this is the current progress. And the next step really will be to start adding in some of the grass. And that's when I will be coming in with my oil pastel that's mixed with linseed oil. That's how I do the grass. And you may have seen that in my previous drawing, or on my Instagram actually, I posted a reel on how I do finer details with oil pastels. And so today that's what I'll be working on, because I think it's finally ready for the grass. And then after that, I'll be carving away a little bit more, just refining the edges of the wildflowers, and that should be it for the most part. I really just want to be able to take off the tape just so I can see the entirety of the drawing, but we'll get there. And so yeah, that's the progress. So for the grass details, I will be actually applying my pastel with some linseed oil and applying it kind of like paint. So what I usually do is I just take an X-Acto knife and I just shave a little bit off of the pastel like this and just mix my colors as desired. There's really no set formula to this. I really just kind of wing it. Take a little bit of the green and the yellow. Start out with something like that and just kind of cutting it up a little bit. So I'm not using my palette today day just because I already have all my pastels laid out on it and I don't really feel like transferring it to another container. So I just found this paper plate that we have at home that I can easily just dispose of when I'm done with this. And the thing about linseed oil is that it won't dry out too quickly, so you can kind of keep it in the same palette or the same place where you have it for a good bit of time. And so sometimes I'll just leave out my palette and until I'm ready to work on the piece again, and it's still pretty good. So something like that, and we're just gonna take the linseed oil, just a tiny bit. I've spilled a good bit of this a while back, and so something like that. Gotta be careful with the linseed oil. And I'm using the Grumbacher linseed oil. I got this from Amazon for like $10, I think. And I don't use it too often. I really just use it for the finer details. But if any of you have other tips on how to create finer details for your oil pastel work, let me know. But this is just kind of something I've worked with and have been using for some time now. So the consistency really just kind of depends on how much oil you put in, how much pigment you put in as well. But sometimes it also depends on the formula of your pigment, because I find that with this set that I'm using, the Mungyo Pastels, there's some greens that are just not as vibrant when it's diluted with linseed oil, but we'll work with this mixture and see how it's gonna show up on the drawing. So I'm just going to pick this little corner here just to kind of test out this paint mixture that I created to see if I need to adjust the pigment a little bit more or less. But we're just gonna apply it like we're painting on this drawing, like this. I feel that it needs a little bit more green to it. I'm not a big fan of how it looks like right now, but we'll adjust as necessary. So one thing I like about pastels is that even through this technique, if you don't like how it turned out, you can always just take a piece of paper towel and just like blot it out. And ta-da, it's like it never happened. Though it will leave a little bit of a stain, but it'll dry off and you can always go on top of it with more pastel, like dry pastel. But I think I'm gonna darken up my mixture a little bit and get started. So this is the most tedious part of the drawing, if I remember correctly from my previous one, but I also think this is the most fun, just because there's something so therapeutic about drawing or painting these lines, or the grass rather, but compared to the previous drawing that I finished, this will take me probably longer, probably maybe twice as long, just because there's so much ground to cover. And I typically do a couple of passes, a couple of layers when I'm working on this stage, just because I want to get the grass looking a certain way. This first part really is just the first pass at the drawing of the grass, but after this I will come back in with just the dry pastel just to carve out some of the lines a little bit, because my brush, I don't know why I'm using this brush exactly. I think this is just the only fine tip brush that I currently have. I don't know that this is the perfect brush for this type of application, just because I feel like it's not as finely detailed as I want it to be. Maybe I need to go buy a new paintbrush for my next drawing, actually, now that I think about it. But the first pass, it's kind of messy, and I don't know how well you can tell, but once they kind of come in, you know, it's all very dense looking, right, kind of in this area. So I like to come in with a dry pastel and carve some of that density away, much in the same way as I do with the flowers when I first started out. So this step will get pretty involved. But like I said, I think besides those things, really the drawing is getting to a point where I can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, if that makes sense. Really, there's no preciseness when I'm drawing these little lines. I'm just kind of going with the flow. I tend to work diagonally and then work my way towards the center, and I like using the flowers themselves as kind of the center point where all of the lines converge towards. I mean, there really is no art to it. I'm not trying to create a really realistic, precise rendering of a landscape. I like to abstract it a little bit, and I don't know, I kind of just like going with the flow. And like I said, there's something really therapeutic about drawing these little lines. And I can kind of just doze off, really. If I put in a podcast or listen to some music and just draw these little lines, I really forget how much time has passed. And that's why, despite this being the most tedious part of the drawing, this is my favorite part of the drawing.